Tonight's class is taught by Avery Lewis. To go ahead and skip ahead to that class, check the screen for the time marker at which you can skip ahead to Avery's class. To hear the intro to my channel, a little bit more about my process of teaching, and get connected in different ways, continue listening, and then Avery's class will start right after. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and we look forward to connecting with you. Hi, my name is Kim, and welcome to my channel. You may have found yourself here when you were looking for yoga, yin yoga, anxiety relief, relaxation, something to do with Brene Brown that'll help your day feel better, or maybe you somehow stumbled here through a picture of a cute animal, or we know each other offline. However you made it here, welcome, and I'm glad that you're here. If you are joining me for a yoga class, go ahead and find yourself somewhere you can lie on the floor for about an hour to an hour and a half. And yes, I genuinely mean just somewhere you can lie on the floor. Yin yoga is a practice that can be done on a yoga mat, but can also just be done lying in the middle of your bedroom floor, your living room floor, or wherever you find yourself. We'll be moving through about a dozen or so different poses that might feel like they are simple at first, but the purpose of yin yoga is to find a way to use our breath and our self willpower to sit in the same position for 3 to 5 or maybe even 7 minutes. And while that sounds simple at first and maybe not like what anything you ever thought yoga could be is, over time we work to ride the edge and the waves of sensation. We never want to push ourselves to a sense of pain, and so if you ever find yourself in pain, please move in a way that feels better for you. But we want to ride the waves of sensation so that we can use the ability to take a deeper inhale, to take a longer exhale, to sit with things that feel new or uncomfortable. Because off the mat or off the floor or outside of this moment that you find yourself in, there can be a lot of things that are hard to deal with, a lot of things that are hard to sit with, and a lot of things that you are trying to push away or avoid or take a break from. And it's not a problem to take a break. But when we find ourselves unable to take a pause and just be with ourselves for 5 minutes, we maybe need to take more breaks for ourselves. So think of this time, whether you participate in the movement or not, as a time for you to take a break, to take a pause, and just to give back to yourself. You probably spend hours and hours each day giving your time to someone else in the interest of hopefully something you enjoy. But take this time for you to sit, to lie, to be, and to breathe. Thank you, and I'll see you on the mat.
In the sort of field of somatics or field of embodiment, there's interoception, which is felt sense. We just talked about that, our internal understanding of ourselves and things that we feel from the inside out. And then there's exteroception, which is that you're listening to me right now. So we use exteroception in order to have that intercorporeal perception as well. And there's something in that for me too that I'm navigating this week. It's like, okay, there's intercorporeal perception in terms of like my physical body, so this like relational aspect of yoga or any movement practice, but there's also like social location and how that plays a role in how we relate to each other, the various aspects of our identity that intersect and create our experience. So I'm thinking about these different ways of perception as we move through class today, and they're not really like hardline categories because they often feed into each other and rely on each other in lots of ways. But I might start calling them out in class as we're leaning into them, as like my cueing lines up with them, so that you can start to identify how skilled you already are in doing all of these things. And I think it's just a helpful way to know where you're at in terms of how much you're inhabiting your body at any given time. So, is this landing making any sense? Well,
getting worse at remembering that. Let's put blocks up at the front of your mat just so they're nearby for a little bit later. And if you have a bolster or a big pillow, we're not going to use that till the end of the class. And then I'm going to have us lay down on our backs to start, but I think it might be nice if you have a folded blanket underneath of you, and we'll just leave that there for a while because eventually we'll want it for some knee padding. So just take a moment and welcome yourself into your body and into this next hour, hour and a half of practice time. Give yourself a moment to feel that you have arrived here, that the car is parked, and you walked through the door, and you laid out your props and your mat, and your body is here. And then start to call your attention into your senses. So honing in on our exteroception. And you might just pick a sense to start. For me, it's usually easiest to choose the sense of touch to notice what I'm actually physically feeling. It might be the feeling of my clothes or the temperature in the air or the actual weight of my body as it's connecting with the floor beneath me. You might notice if there's any particular smells that you can identify. You may notice the smell of this candle in the front of the room or just the smell of this space, the ballroom. You may notice any lingering taste in your mouth if you were just drinking tea or if you maybe had dinner before you came here tonight. And you might notice what you can hear. Probably most audibly the sound of my voice, but beyond that, if there's anything that you can hear from outside or in this room. And as you're gathering up your senses, I'll invite you to start taking slightly deeper breath. And that can just be kind of invitational, like you're just inviting the ribs to expand a bit, you're inviting your lungs to expand a bit. You're inviting the belly to soften so there can be space for that expansion. And just allowing a little more airflow in and out. And as you're tuning into breath, you might notice if there's anything that you can perceive internally, introspectively. That might be like the sensation of an emotion or an internal temperature. It might be something like your heart beating. And then allow yourself to sink into your proprioceptive capabilities. So noticing where your body is, how your body is. Noticing that you're laying down. You might feel for the relationship of your left leg to your right leg, your left arm and your right arm, your head and your feet. And then tuning finally into your intercorporeal perception, noting that you're actually in this room with a bunch of other people. And maybe you can sense them from where you are on your mat. And acknowledge that we're sharing the space, we're sharing this field, we're sharing this time. And we'll start to share some movement as well. So when you feel ready for it, you can bring the bottoms of your feet to the floor. And then in your own time, we're just going to rock the knees side to side. So you can let them fall over gently one way, gently the other. You might make some choices about how far apart your feet are. And feel for what you can feel externally. So maybe just noticing the shifting sensation along your low back as you rock side to side, or the shifting sensation among the bottoms of your feet. And also feel for what you feel internally. So the way that your thigh bones interact with your hip socket as you make this movement. And then slowly, we're going to let the knees come back up through center. Just come as you're ready. You don't have to rush to get there. Once your knees are in center, I'm going to have you reach your left leg up into the air. And just hold on to the back of your left leg with your hands for a little support. And make any movements that feel good or natural to you through your left foot and ankle. And if you haven't already, start to stretch your heel up towards the ceiling and draw your toes down towards your face and just feel the whole length along the back of your leg. Good. And then we're going to bend the left knee and take the left ankle to cross over the right thigh. And then you might just hang out here and try to breathe really deeply into your whole right side body, down into your left side body. Or if you want more sensation, you can bring this whole figure four structure in towards your chest. So you can wrap your arms around the right thigh and draw this in. Check in with your jaw and your tongue and the muscles of your face here and see if you can just gently ask them to relax as you soften through your hips. And depending on how you're feeling today, you might stay here, or it could feel good to let this whole structure tilt over to the right so that you bring the bottom of your left foot to the floor. And then you can use your right hand to hold your left ankle, just to kind of keep it in place. And then perhaps let the left arm reach out to a T, maybe gazing over that direction. It could also feel good to reach the left arm up by your left ear, so you have this like really long space between left fingers and left hip crease. Yeah. Feel for what you feel on the inside and outside. Good, and then we're going to gently draw this structure back through center and reach the left leg back up into the air. Right foot can stay on the ground. And then really slowly, I'm going to have you lower the left leg inch by inch until it comes back down to the ground, long in front of you. Yeah. And then once that left leg is long against the ground, just rest there for a moment and feel into the asymmetry. Feeling you have one leg long, straight, one leg bent, foot on the floor. Okay, and then we'll switch sides. So you can bring the left foot to the floor and reach your right foot up into the air, using your hands to support you if that feels good, and just make any movements that feel natural through your right foot, right ankle. And then if you haven't yet, stretch your heel into the air and reach your toes down towards your face and feel for the length along the back of your leg. And then keeping that foot flexed, let's bend the right knee and take the right ankle to the left thigh. Coming into this figure 4 shape, you might just stay here. This can be a really nice place to rest. Or if it would feel nice, you can bring this whole structure in towards your chest, using your arms to support you as needed. Checking in with your jaw, tongue, eyebrows. Noticing how sometimes tension likes to, it's kind of sneaky. It can move from the hips and then get stuck again in the jaw or stuck again in the shoulders. So how can you find softness through those spaces as you release tension through your hips? And if it felt good on the other side, you might try it here, letting this whole structure fall over towards the left, bringing the bottom of your right foot to the floor and maybe holding on to the right ankle. Yeah, and then it could feel good to let the right arm reach out to a T or up by the right ear. And just find some deep breath into the right side, noticing the spaciousness that can be there. And we're going to let this structure come back through center. And keeping the left foot on the floor, we'll reach the right leg up towards the ceiling once more. And then slowly, inch by inch, we're going to let the right leg make its way down to the ground. Think about reaching forward as you're bringing the leg down. Yeah. And then once the leg makes contact with the ground, just rest there for a moment and feel into your body's asymmetry. One leg long, one leg bent. And then you can gather your legs and bring your knees in towards your chest, wrap your arms around your legs. make any movement that feels good, maybe rocking side to side, maybe finding a happy baby, or just drawing the knees a bit wider towards your armpits. And when you're ready, you can roll over onto your right side. And we're just going to pause here for a moment and assess your energy level. Try to feel into the weight of your bones and really ask yourself what you have capacity for right now. And then we're going to take this on the other side. So when you're ready, you can roll over onto your left side. Rest into your bones. Tune inward and genuinely ask yourself what you have capacity for. And try to honor that as we move throughout the rest of our practice. And then you can come back onto your back as you feel ready, and we're going to start to make our way to an upright seat. And that might look like kind of rock and rolling along your spine if that feels good, or you can just use your hands to support you as you come up. So we're just going to find a comfortable seat for a few minutes. That might mean using a bolster or folding your blanket underneath your sit bones to give you a little bit of a prop. Try and give some attention to the neck and shoulders before we move forward. So as you inhale, I'm going to have you reach your shoulders up towards your ears and tense up intentionally. So like squeeze your shoulders, squeeze, 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 squeeze. And then as you exhale, open mouth, let your shoulders drop. That can be kind of a forceful. So we'll inhale, squeeze the shoulders up, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Exhale, let them drop. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhaling up, squeeze, and exhale. And once more, inhale, squeeze, and exhale. Good. And then we're just going to kind of walk it out. So taking one shoulder, lifting it up towards your ear, rolling it forward. And we'll do the same with the other side. Lift it up, roll forward. And you can kind of let your whole torso sort of come along for the ride. You might find yourself sort of shifting side to side. And then we're going to reverse this direction. So we're going to walk up and back. And then you can let those little circles get smaller and smaller until your shoulders come back to neutral. And then we're just going to take the fingertips to the floor on either side of us and then lift the hands a little bit so that your hands hover. Yeah, so it's really like reaching outward rather than lifting through the shoulders. The shoulders can stay relaxed, but the hands will lift out. Yeah. And then get pretty active through your fingers. So you're really stretching through them. Inhale and sit up really tall. Then exhale, let's let the right ear come down towards the right shoulder. And with a really active left fingers, this might feel kind of intense. So you can play around with softening through the left hand or reaching strongly. And then you can turn your chin down towards the right shoulder. See how that feels. And then maybe try reaching chin up towards the ceiling, see what's there. And then I'm going to have you bring your right fingertips to your right temple and just gently press your head back upright. And release any tension through your arms. You can shake out the hands for a moment. We'll do that on the other side. So first finding your active arms that just kind of hover above the ground, sit up nice and tall, and then as you exhale, left ear towards left shoulder. And just kind of adjusting how strongly you want to reach through your right hand. So you notice that the more strongly you reach through the right hand, the more sensation there probably is along the right side of your neck. And then you can explore a little bit, maybe bringing your chin down towards the left shoulder. Maybe bringing it up towards the ceiling. And then let's take the left fingers to the left temple and gently guide your head back upright and shake out your hands. Okay, and then lastly, you can just let your hands rest at your thighs and have you bring your chin down towards your chest. And let the back of the neck lengthen. And then you can explore a little bit here too. You might just trace your chin back and forth across your collarbones. And then we're going to take the fingertips to the temples, to your skull, and just carefully guide your whole head back upright. All right, let's start to transition onto hands and knees for tabletop pose, and you can keep the blanket here if that feels good for your knees. And actually, before we move through a sort of traditional cat-cow, it might feel good to drop down onto your forearms and take a couple cat-cows from here. They'll be smaller, but you'll be able to get a little bit more sensation or movement through your shoulder blades. So as you inhale, you can reach the head up, and then as you exhale, you can round the spine. And then as your spine is rounding, you could play around with sort of isometrically drawing your elbows apart from each other. So they won't actually move in space, but you might feel a little extra stretch through the shoulder blades and the muscles around them. So if you want to keep exploring this from here, by all means, please do. If you want to move back up onto your hands and take a full cat-cow, inhaling to stretch through your whole spine and exhaling to round your whole spine, you can do that too. So as we're moving through cat-cow, which is relatively simple movement, you could play around with closing your eyes if that feels comfortable and safe today, and just see what you can feel from that interoceptive space. So what you can feel internally, sometimes I like to think about the really slow sort of unraveling or unfolding of my vertebrae as I move into this flexed spine and then back into the rounded shape. You might consider the movement of your heart forward and back, like the actual organ, the heart moving forward and then up and back. And then you can start to let your spine come back to neutral. And we're going to take a few little side stretches from here. So I'm going to have you drop down onto your right forearm and then send your hips back and reach your left hand across from the right arm. So we're taking left hand to the outside of the mat. Yeah. It might feel good to kind of send your hips towards the left ankle. And we'll try that on the other side, so you can come back through center. Hands under shoulders, and then we'll drop the left forearm down, reach the right arm across. Hips can shift towards your right ankle. And then coming back through center, we'll come back to tabletop, so bringing hands underneath shoulders. And then we'll tuck the toes under and reach your hips up and back for downward facing dog. So that transition from tabletop into down dog is kind of significant. So think about how your body just moved through space. You might notice the space between the front of your body and the floor. You might imagine the space that exists between the back of your body and the ceiling. Feeling for where you are in space. Where are your legs in relation to each other, in relation to your arms? Yeah. And then we're going to do some shifting back and forth here. So as you inhale, you can lift your heels and shift forward into plank pose. Check back in with, remember we checked in with our capacity for today. If you're feeling like you want to lower your knees down today, you can do that here. And we'll just take a big inhale breath. And then exhale back, downward facing dog. Nice breath in. And a full breath out. We're going to do that 2 more times, inhaling as you lift your heels, shift forward, plank pose, maybe the knees drop. Big breath in. Exhale, downward facing dog. Breath in. Breath out. And last time, we'll inhale, shift forward, plank pose. And then this time as you exhale, go ahead and bend the elbows and lower all the way to the ground. Okay. And we'll take the tops of the feet to the floor, and as you inhale, lift through the face and the heart, coming up for cobra pose. So there's very little weight in the hands. You're letting the shoulder blades draw down the back, pressing down through the tops of your feet. And then as you exhale, gently lowering through your heart, throat, face. And we'll take 2 more cobras like that, inhaling as you lift up. Exhaling as you lower. And once more like that, inhaling as you lift. Feel your back engage. And exhale as you lower. Feel the back relax. Good. Engaging through your belly, let's press back to a tabletop. And then tucking the toes under, downward facing dog. Okay, so from this down dog, let's take a slow walk up towards the top of your mat. Coming to a standing forward fold, and we have our blocks here for a little extra support, so you can bring them underneath your hands. I like to use them at the highest length, but it might be different for you. Okay, and as you inhale, you can press your hands into the blocks and lengthen the top of your head forward. Bend your knees enough that you can reach your tailbone up and back, so you can get really long through your spine. That'll be a halfway lift shape, and then as you exhale, you can gently fold. And we'll do that halfway lift 2 more times, inhaling to lift. Feel your back engage, just like cobra pose, and then exhale and lower. Once more, inhale and lift. And then exhale and lower. Good. Okay, on our inhale, we're going to come to chair pose. So we're going to let the knees bend, the seat's going to come back. I'm just going to sweep my arms forward for this first chair. And just feeling the strength of your legs. You might feel heat building up. And then as we inhale, we're going to push into the feet, reach your arms up towards the ceiling, lengthen all the way up to stand. And then exhale, you can let your arms float out wide and down towards your sides. Good. Okay, so let's take a little bend in the knees just so you have like some buoyancy to you, and then bring the tops of your fingers to the tops of your shoulders, elbows wide. And we're just going to do some rotations side to side. So we do this a lot in this class, and it's just kind of orienting. So you can keep the eyes open and just try to take in the room. You might come into that intercorporeal perception, noticing the other people in the room, noticing how you use your senses to perceive them. Okay, and then the next time that you kind of twist through center, you can pause there and relax your arms down by your sides. We're going to try and keep some of this buoyancy through our legs. As we inhale, press your feet down, sweep your arms out and up. And then exhaling, hinging at the hips, folding forward. Hands can find your blocks. Inhale for that halfway lift, strong back like cobra. And then exhale and fold. And then let's take the blocks back to frame our feet. So just draw them back a little bit. And we'll step the right foot back. We're going to take the right knee all the way down to the ground. So we're in a low lunge. Yeah. Good. And then we're going to start to engage the legs. So press down through your front foot. Feel the sensation of the bottom of your foot pressing into the mat. Feel the strength of your front leg. And then maybe your fingers get kind of light on the blocks as you reach up tall through your spine. Feel your back body, your shoulder blades drawing down. And then from that stability, then you can inhale, let the arms get light and float up towards the ceiling. Try to inhabit your back leg too. So like notice that you have a back leg and it's there. And there's a relationship between the back leg and the front leg supporting you. And then you can kind of engage through the inner thighs as if you were gonna like zip your legs together. There's sort of this like strength that comes from the inner thighs up through the low belly. And then from there, we'll inhale, reach a little bit taller. And then exhale and twist to your left. You can bring your right hand down to that front leg. Left arm reaches back behind you. Staying connected to your back leg and the back arm. And then inhale as you gently unwind. Come back through center, arms overhead. And exhale, let your hands find those blocks. And we're going to tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee. Moving through some cat-cow shapes in this lunge. As we inhale, you can lift up through the top of your head, feel your collarbones broaden, and then push down through your front foot as you exhale. Slide your hips back, round your spine. Head can be heavy, that back heel can sink down. So that's your exhale shape. We're just going to move back and forth a few times like that. So as you inhale, you'll slide forward, bend the front knee, gaze up, and exhale and slide back. So a good place to notice proprioception, how your body's moving in space, how all the pieces are working together to support that movement. Back leg and front leg are interacting and working with each other to slide you forward and back. And the next time that you find yourself in that first position with the front knee bent, you can pause there. And then I'm gonna actually come up onto my left fingertips, so I have a little extra space. I'm like my left fingertips against the block. And then from here, take your mind and try to connect it all the way down through your back leg and really squeeze the muscles of the back leg to the bone. So that back leg is strong and it exists and it's there. And then from the length of that back leg, reach your right arm forward. So you have this really long line between your right fingertips and the right heel. And then from the strength of both your legs, maybe you lift your arms. This feels like work, so you can make a decision for yourself here based on your capacity today. Maybe you lower the back knee. Maybe you stay lifted. If you want to play around with balance, a good way to practice proprioception, you can start to kind of inch forward, maybe little baby hops with that back foot. And then you can just gently let the back leg lift away from the ground as you come towards warrior three. Maybe your arms are in front of you, maybe they're back to fly. Notice if there's some wobbliness, that's your body figuring out where it is in space. That's your proprioception. Yeah. Great. Cool. You guys are all doing really cool things. Okay. Let's come down to chair pose. When you're ready, you can let the right foot come down to meet the left. We're going to let the hips sink back. Arms will lift. I'm going to take us into another twist here, and I'll show you a couple options. If you want, you can let your right arm sweep back, left arm forward, so you're in a T. Or if you'd like to take this from a prayer position, you can bring your hands together at your heart and then take your left elbow to hook on the outside of your right thigh. So take what feels good for you. Feel what's there on the inside, what's there on the outside. And then as you inhale, let's come back through center. Exhale, relax your shoulders. And then push into your feet and rise all the way up towards the ceiling. Exhale, let your arms open wide and relax by your sides. And just pause for a moment. Feel what's there. I notice my skin feels a little tingly right now. I think I'm getting warmer. You might feel internally, interoceptively into the pacing or rhythm of your heartbeat. Cool. Okay, so let's try that on the other side. As you're ready, you can inhale, reach your arms out and up. And exhale as you fold forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Feel your back body, and then exhale and fold. And we'll come to that low lunge first. So let's step the left leg back. Left knee will come down to the ground. Just as you settle in, bring your awareness into the front leg. Feel the toes of that front foot spread. Feel that whole front foot connect to the ground. Feel the strength in your front thigh. Notice that you've got that back leg there. It's there to support you too. And then there's that kind of zipping together motion. So as you engage your inner thighs, your low belly can draw up and support you enough so that maybe the arms lift up towards the ceiling. And as you get tall through your spine, we'll take an inhale here. And then exhale as you twist to the right. Your right arm can reach back behind you. Maybe your left hand finds that front leg. This is balance too, right? There's probably a little bit of wobbling happening here as well. Okay, and then as you inhale, let's come back through center. You can reach your arms up overhead. And then exhale to let your hands come down to your blocks. And we'll tuck the back toes under and then lift the back knee. And moving through those cat-cow lunges, as you inhale, we'll lift up through the head, widen through the heart. And then exhaling, push into your front foot, hips slide back, back heel sinks, forehead drops down. And just take that at your own pace, inhaling as you shift forward, exhaling as you shift backward. So last time we did this, we were noticing our own body's movement in space. And I'll challenge you now to notice your own body and also every other bodies in the room. So through maybe your periphery, you can sense this forward and back motion of other people, or maybe you don't even see it, you hear it. Or maybe you just sense it, you know that there's other people in the room with you. And then as we come back to that first position, the next time that your front knee bends, we'll pause there. And setting up for our high lunge, first take your mind's attention into the back leg and notice it's there, notice it can be strong and supportive in this position. And then from the length and strength of the back leg, you can reach your left arm forward. So you've got this long, strong diagonal line between your left fingers and your left ankle. You might feel your back body engaging to hold the left arm up. And then from there, we'll inhale, let the right arm meet it, and reach both arms up towards the ceiling. Notice where you feel heat, where you might feel fatigued or energized. And then if it would feel good for you to practice balance on this side, you can start to kind of hop that back foot forward and let your body find some version of Warrior 3. Maybe that's just kind of bouncing the back leg up and down, seeing what it's like to bring your weight into the front leg. Maybe you have arms outstretched, maybe they're back behind you, maybe you've got them on blocks. Notice the way your body's adjusting to find balance. That wobbling is part of its mechanism for keeping you stable. It's its own learning process. Something I'm really learning to appreciate. And when you feel ready for it, you can come down to chair pose. So let the left leg meet the right, and then settle down into your seat. And then we're coming back into that twist. So on your exhale, you can either come into a twist, T twist to the left, or if you want to do this from prayer, you can take your right elbow and hook it on your left thigh. Good. And then as you inhale, let your body unwind, reach your arms overhead, soften your shoulders. And on your next inhale, push into both feet equally as you rise up. And then exhale, let your arms fall down by your sides. And just pause and assess. So you might have eyes open or closed, or you might just be kind of softening the periphery. Noticing the temperature of your body, the temperature of the room. Okay. So I'm going to have us move into some side-facing poses, and I think it might feel better to take off socks if you have socks on. I'm just noticing for myself that that might help me balance a little bit better. And then we probably won't need a blanket for this, so you might set that aside. Cool. And then let's all take your blocks and turn to the right. So let's turn towards the windows. That's your right, right? No, that's your left. Sorry, the windows are on both sides. It's very bad cueing, sorry. Okay, and just come to a nice like wide-legged stance so you can send your legs out pretty wide and put one block on either side. Good, okay. So we're gonna come to warrior two first, pointing towards the front of the room. So you can turn your front toes towards the top of the room there, and then take a look at your back foot, and we'll make that foot so it's about parallel with the back of your mat-ish. And then we're just gonna bend into the front knee, let it track over your front ankle. And then let's take the arms out, but hold your palms face up for a moment, like you have like 2 plates of hors d'oeuvres or something. Little tiny hot dogs. I'm getting really like giggly now. And so from here, you can feel your shoulder blades kind of walk down your back. Right? There's like a little bit more flexibility to do that. So keeping the shoulder blades walking down the back, I notice as I do that my ribs want to splay open. So as I let my shoulder blades sink, I'm going to kind of knit together there. Yeah, that's it. Good. And then just flip the palms over and reach your arms out long. Good. Come into your feet with your brain. Take your mind down into your feet. Try to relax the tops of your feet. Feel for the outside edge of your foot, the pinky toe side pressing down, and then also the big toe. Notice where the arch of your foot is, and just notice if the arch is touching the ground or not. Try not to make any judgments about that, just noticing what's happening. Good. Okay, and then let's reach the arms up and grab for opposite elbows over your head. And then we're just going to tilt this whole upper structure towards the back of the room, so towards your back leg. And feel for that nice big stretch along your right side. And then push into the front foot and lengthen that leg. And then we're going to release the elbows as we start to hinge forward. We're coming towards triangle pose. So as you reach forward, you can grab for your block that you placed up there. I'm going to bring it to the inside of the front ankle. Let that hand rest on it, and then reach your other arm up towards the ceiling. Good. Notice your back body in this pose. It's just really easy to forget that you have that part of your body. That's why I keep saying that. It's not because anything's going wrong or awry. It's just nice to bring your attention there. And then from here, start to reach that top hand up towards the ceiling. Let that bring you back to warrior two. See if you can settle into that as you feel your shoulder blades drop down and the low ribs knit together. Good. And then push into the front foot, lengthen that leg, take that foot parallel to the other, and we're just going to shift into that on the other side. So we're going to turn the back toes out towards the back of the room. Coming into warrior two on this side, find your hors d'oeuvre arms first, so palms face up. If this feels good, you can always do warrior two like this. I went through a long phase of that. It was kind of nice to let the shoulders drop down. And then keeping the shoulder blades drawing down and together, low ribs knitting together, then you can flip the palms over and reach your arms long. Good. And then try to maintain some awareness of your arms as you bring your attention down to your feet. Just noticing which parts of your foot are making contact with the floor. Notice if there's a lot of gripping through your feet, and if that's necessary, you might be able to soften that gripping a little bit and stay stable. And then we'll reach the arms up overhead, grab for opposite elbows. And then we're just going to tilt this whole upper structure towards your back leg, which is your right leg now. And from there, push into the front foot, lengthen that leg, and then we're going to start to hinge forward, coming to triangle pose on this side. So as you're reaching forward, you can release the grip of your arms, find that block, take it to the inside of the ankle, and then reach your other arm up overhead. Feel for where your shoulder blades are, where your sacrum is. Feel for the backs of your legs, your glutes, your heels. And then we'll reach that top arm up towards the ceiling. Let that bring us out back to warrior two. Nice. And then pushing into the front foot, let's take both feet parallel to each other. I'm just going to move my blocks a little bit forward so I have some space. And then taking a little bend in the knees, you can either bring the heels of your hands to your sacrum, so kind of cupping the low back, or you can bring the hands to interlace behind your back. As you inhale, we'll stretch the fists down, lift your chest up, and then hinging at the hips, you can fold forward if that feels okay. If the arms are clasped, you might let them hang overhead. If you had hands at your hips, you might take your fingers down to the ground or to blocks. And I'm just going to give us a moment for some free-form movement. If that would feel nice to kind of shift weight side to side, you can do that here. If you're shifting weight side to side and you're aware of that movement, that transition of body weight from one foot to the next, you're practicing your proprioceptive awareness. You're noticing where your body is in space. Okay, and then I'm just going to throw out some options while we're here, so you can take whatever you want. You could stay here if this is feeling okay, or it may feel good to walk your hands forward so that you have like a down dog shape in the upper body, but these wide-legged legs in your lower body. That could feel good with hands on the floor or hands on blocks. Bless you. So you might stay here. It could feel good to bring this into a twist. So you might leave your left hand on the block or the ground and then reach your right hand for either left ankle, left calf muscle, somewhere along the left leg. And if you are taking that, I encourage you to let your head kind of hang so it's not having, the neck's not having to strain too much. And then you can gently release that and unwind. Give yourself a moment to pause and center. And then you can try the other side, letting the right hand stay where it is and reaching left hand towards right leg. Anywhere it falls on that leg is fine. And then you can gently unwind that. Okay, let's start to walk the blocks and your hands back underneath your shoulders if you took that down dog shape. And then I think it might be easiest just to keep walking the blocks around back towards the front of your mat. You can let your feet kind of pivot with you. And then setting the blocks aside, taking your hands down to the ground, you can step your front foot back to plank pose. And then just your choice here. If you want to move through a whole vinyasa sequence, you can, lowering down through chaturanga, cobra, up dog, downward facing dog. Might feel nice just to rest in a child's pose. That was our whole standing sequence for tonight. So we're going to start winding back down, but while we're still here in this energy, if there's anything else you want to do on your feet or on your knees or any kind of larger movement, this is a good time to practice that. So we'll meet in a seated position. That can be any comfortable seat. You might come to a cross-legged position with your bolster or blanket beneath you. I'm going to sit on a couple of blocks, just somewhere where you can be comfortable for maybe about 5 minutes or so. I just like to have a little pause between the more active part of class and sort of our dessert restorative portion. So as you're kind of finding this seat, you might like rock side to side a little bit, feel your sit bones anchoring into whatever props you're using or the floor. And just notice where your hands fall naturally and know that that's perfectly fine and great. Might feel nice to let the eyelids get heavy here, maybe the eyes close. So we spent a lot of our practice thinking about how information comes to us externally. So we noticed the way things felt, sensations in our body as we touched the mat in various ways or engaged muscles in various ways. And we practiced noticing how our body was moving in space, where it was in space, the orientation of the body to the ceiling and the floor, how our limbs can move independently or in sync with each other. And when we get to the sort of stiller or more slow parts of practice, we have an opportunity to kind of settle a little more deeply into that interoception and tapping into felt sense, sensation that we might experience from the inside out. And that's a deep practice that can take a really long time to cultivate and to get comfortable with. And so I think it might be useful to use the next few minutes just to think about like introducing yourself to your felt sense. Just kind of moving slowly and developing relationship authentically and slowly with that part of yourself. So as you let your attention rest inward, one thing that could be helpful as you tap into internal sensation or felt sense is to just follow your breath. It sounds really simple, but just using your mind to follow the trail of breath as it comes in through your nose and down your throat and fills your lungs. And then that same trail up and out. And as you let yourself kind of settle into that rhythm, the in and down, the up and out, you might just whisper a little hello internally to whatever felt sense or sense of intuition might rest there. It's just letting letting that part of yourself know that you're here and you're listening and you're available for a relationship. And then as a way to orient yourself to this moment of your practice, you can try to let yourself settle into the back of your body. So feel for the back of your skull, the back of your neck, your shoulders, mid-back, low back, sacrum, your seat, backs of your legs, bottoms of your feet. And as you're resting into your back body, you might liken this experience or this sensation to your personal history, and maybe just today, like what brought you into this space today, what preceded you walking into the door today. So that's at your back here. And then letting awareness settle into the center of your body as you inhabit your lungs and your heart, all of your abdominal organs down through your pelvis. And sometimes just settling into that part of the body can elicit a bigger inhale, so you might feel your lungs expand deeply. And settling into the very center of your body, you might liken this to being in this moment, in the present moment, right here, right now, in this room, with these people. And staying connected to the back of your body and the center of your body, your past and your present, feeling into the front of your body, your face, your throat, your heart, across the skin of your abdomen, tops of your thighs, knees, shins, tops of your feet. And you might liken this experience of settling into the front of your body as the way that you hold visions for your own future or collective future. And then allowing a moment for all of those aspects, the past, present, future, to integrate and exist in your body at the same time. Just noticing how expansive that can be to hold all of that in one body. And then I'll have you start to tune into sounds that you can hear. I'm starting to invite exteroception back into our awareness. And then slowly start to open your eyes and just let whatever visuals are before you come to you as you bring in your sense of sight. And then we'll start to settle into a few. I just have 3 restorative postures for us tonight. One of them we do all the time, and that'll be our first one. So we're going to set up that ramp that we did last week with our blocks and bolster. Mike, do you want to use my bolster? Sure? Okay. So we're going to take one block and bring it to its sort of second or medium setting, and one block at its lowest setting. So you have like stair steps. And then you can take the bolster and lay it across those stair steps. So this is just going to be like a nice recliner for us to lean back on. So that's where we're headed. You can bring your low back up to the short end of the bolster and kind of guide yourself down onto it. I will say we're going to be here for maybe like 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less than that. So it probably would feel good to like bundle up a little bit, maybe put your socks on or a sweater. If you need an extra blanket, I have an extra one up here. So these last couple of postures that we're going to do together they're really just intended to help us integrate the practice. So there's nothing specific that you need to do in this position other than rest. My hope is that you would be able to let yourself feel really held and supported by your props. If that's not feeling true for you and you want to readjust the prop structure beneath you, please do. If you feel very comfortable here and you want to just remain in this position, that's totally fine. If you'd like to try one more supported posture tonight, you can gently roll onto one side and press yourself up. For our last posture, and this will take us into Shavasana, our corpse pose, I'm just going to create a little shelf at the other end of my mat, taking 2 blocks and resting a bolster across those 2 blocks. And I'm going to use this little shelf to support my legs. So you could try some version of this. If you find that the shelf feels a little too elevated, you could simply place a bolster under your knees. And then as you're coming to lay down, it might feel nice to spread a blanket out across your body, or even just fold one up and place it across the belly, just for a little extra weight there. It can be kind of comforting to the nervous system. Or you might place your blanket underneath your head for some extra cushioning beneath your skull. As you settle into this pose, you can let your attention drift down through the front body, middle body, and back body, and down into the floor. And imagine yourself being kind of cradled by the floor, the earth. Allow a softness to sweep across your face, relaxing your tongue. And you can release any control of your breath here. start to allow your body to receive a deeper inhale. And for a few breaths, just let that be the only movement. There can just be this really sweet expansion as breath comes in, and that sort of tender gathering back together as the exhale. And allowing yourself to just really slowly start to wake and rebirth from this corpse pose. You might find some small movements in the fingers. Might let your feet move a little bit, kind of kneading the air. Maybe a gentle rock of your head. You might reach your arms up overhead and feel the length of you. Let yourself take up a lot of space, fingers to toes, as long as you can be. And then eventually you might gather your legs back in towards your chest and embrace yourself. Let your arms wrap around your legs, hold yourself close. And we're going to start to find our way back to an upright seat. Probably will feel good to roll onto a side and then use your arms to kind of push yourself back up. And just notice how you naturally settle into your body. Where does your attention naturally want to go? Is there a part of you that holds more of your body's weight than another? Just kind of paying attention to those patterns. And then you can bring your hands anywhere that feels meaningful for you, some authentic way for you to close the practice. I like to just place my hands across my heart. It might feel good to take a prayer position, or maybe a hand at the heart or hand at the belly. And wherever your hands have fallen, just kind of feel into their contact. So if they're at prayer, you might feel one hand pressing against the other. If you've got hands on your body some way, feel into their weight and their warmth. And then as a practice of that relational embodiment, the way that we become embodied through relationship and through interaction with each other, let's try to sync up our breath for the last couple of breaths of practice. So we'll take a couple breaths together, and you can exhale all the way to begin. And then inhale. Exhale. One more time, inhale. And exhale. I'm extending my deep gratitude towards the lineage of yoga and all of the practices that inform my movement and embodiment. And I'm so thankful to have each of you here tonight. Thanks for sharing this space with me. Have a good evening. Please stay for tea if that feels good to you.